Welcome back to flowmo. I'm Jake, and in this tutorial, we're going to cover everything you need to know about responsive design in flowmo. First, we'll start with the basic principles that will help you understand what flowmo offers and when to use it. Then we'll go through creating breakpoints, the simplest way to have creative freedom and control everything for each layout. In the last part, we'll talk about advanced ideas that you might want to consider when creating your most amazing website yet. So, let's get started. First, let's understand the basics. As you can see, our first part is going to cover constraints. Constraints are when an object is magnetized to the screen. Here we have three centered objects. However, when I preview the real website, it's going to look different than the design. Let's see why. If I click on the first one, we can clearly see its constraint is to the right and to the top. The second one is to the center, and the last one is to the left. This means that flowmo measures the distance between the left side of the screen and the left edge of the element to keep its position. The same applies with the object that is set to right. The center object is measured from the center. So when I play with the screen resolution, as you can see, this distance from the right is going to stay the same, and also this distance from the left is also going to stay the same. There are different use cases for that. Let's see one in action. I have a logo here. If I constrain it to the center or the right, it's going to have a problem. When I shrink the screen, the logo is going to disappear. So we'll want to fix that. All I need to do is go to the logo and click here. Or I can click here. That's going to fix it. Now, the logo is going to stay and stick to the left. Okay, great. So now, let's go over pixels versus percentages. When you have a responsive design, sometimes you want the element to respond to the screen's width or height. So here I have two images. If I go to the right panel, I can clearly see that now everything is set to pixels. As you can see, the X position, Y position, width, and height are all set to pixels. If I go to the second one, let's change its width to percentages. I'll click the second picture, then go to the width, select the unit, click on it, and set it to percentages. Let's see what it does. As you can see, since the screen is wider than our first design, the image is wider. If I shrink it down, you can see the image width also shrinks. However, the height doesn't shrink. Sometimes this is what we want, and sometimes it's problematic. For this use case, we'll introduce another feature that will keep our aspect ratio the same. All we need to do is click the aspect ratio lock here, and we're good to go. Let's see it in action again. Now, when I shrink the screen, as you can see, both width and height scale down. Amazing! So if I click the logo here, I want it to stay in pixels. However, when you shrink the screen, the line sometimes prevents us from reading the text above. If we want to fix it, all we need to do is click the lion image, go to the width, go to percentages, and make sure we have the aspect ratio locked. Let's see it in action. Now, when I shrink the screen, the lion shrinks. Okay, amazing. We have two more things in the basics to go over. The next thing is adaptive design. Usually when you design a website, you'd like it to be responsive. However, there are some cases where you want the design to look identical, no matter what the screen size is. This means that the design as a whole needs to scale up or down according to the screen size. Let's see it in action. Here I have a design, and if I preview it now, as you can see, when I shrink the screen, nothing happens. In this case, this is not what I wanted. I wanted the whole design to scale down uniformly. What I need to do is select the frame, go to the Properties tab on the right, and click on Adaptive Design. This will calculate everything according to the screen width. So if I shrink the screen, as you can see, everything shrinks proportionally. And we're always going to see the same design, no matter what the screen size is. Great. Now we're moving on to what I think is the most crucial element in responsive design, which is automatic layout. Here I have two elements, an image and text. As you might envision, nothing is going to happen when I shrink the screen. However, I wanted it to be responsive. For that, I need to create relations between the two elements. So if I select the first element, which is the image, hold Shift, then click the second element, all I need to do is go to Automatic Layout. And that's it. They now have a relationship. As you can see, the break is almost like I wanted. So let's go over the properties here. First, I have this box here. It indicates the alignment of the elements inside the box. Here I have the parent, the box, and I want it to be aligned differently depending on use cases. Let's see what happens when I click here. As you can see, the text went up. This is not exactly what we wanted, so we'll go back. However, now when I scale the screen down, they're not aligned optimally. I want them to be aligned to the center. All I need to do is click here, the center. Now it's going to be centered. That's it. I have a responsive design at the click of a button. Let's see it in action. On our final website, I have this area here where I have a text and an image, exactly like before. As you can see, they have an automatic layout with the same positioning as before. If I preview it and scale it down, it's going to be responsive. Okay, let's go back and explore more properties. Here I have another important property, which is the layout direction. If I click the down arrow, as you can see, they're aligned top to bottom. If I reverse it, the first element is going to be at the bottom, and the second at the top. The same thing happens if I go left to right. The left side will have the first element, and if I go right, the right side will have the first element. Also, we have a gap between the elements. There's a separate gap for the horizontal and vertical axes between them. So if I set it now to 40, as you can see, the gap between them is now smaller. However, if I go back to the vertical layout, as you can see here, it hasn't changed. This is because the gap measurement here is the same as before. Let's change it also. Amazing. So now we have what we wanted. Let's explore the last thing that is important in automatic layout, which is padding. In an automatic layout, we can have padding around its content. For example, if I add 20 pixels of padding, the whole padding is going to be 20. Now, as you can see, we have spacing between the elements and the border. If I go to any of the buttons on our final website, we'll see spacing between the button itself and the text. The last thing we need to cover with automatic layout is the sizing. When I click on any automatic layout element, sizing options appear. Here I can change many properties that will affect how the responsive design behaves. Let's, for example, change the wrap to no wrap and see what happens. Now, it's not going to behave as we wanted. It's not going to change anything at all, actually. Sometimes this is exactly what we want. For example, when you have a slider, you might want it to be partially outside the screen. The next two things are the sizing itself. So if I put it on fixed, I can now play with the sizing. What it means is that if it's set to wrap and I shrink it down, the text moves down. The next thing I want to talk about is breakpoints. Breakpoints give designers full control over the creative vision of each layout. You can have different breakpoints for different devices, and you can have as many breakpoints as you want. For example, if you want one for mobile, one for desktop, and one for tablet, you can have them. If you want to add more, you can have it. Each element can be controlled separately. Let's see it in action. Here I have a design, and I want to have another breakpoint for it. I'll right-click it and add a breakpoint. As you can see, it was added next to the other breakpoint. So let's change its sizing and say it's suitable for tablets. Let's say that for some reason this is what I wanted. Now, when I make the screen size larger than this breakpoint, it's going to show the bigger design. If it's smaller, it's going to show the smaller one. Let's see it in action. Now I'm above 1440. If I scale it down below 1440, I'm going to switch to the smaller design. Let's add another breakpoint. I'll right-click it and let's do a mobile design. Okay, that's it for now. So the first breakpoint is the bigger one. Then when I scale down, I'm going to tablet mode. When I go below 1024, it's going to switch to mobile design, exactly like I wanted. But what if we already have two designs already, pre-made, and the designs that are not connected? How can they be connected? This is what I have for mobile design. But I want the larger design to be connected. How can I do that? All I need to do is click either, go to Properties, and simply connect the breakpoint. Select the other one we want to connect. Now both are connected to one breakpoint. When I preview and scale, I go to the mobile design. Mobile, desktop. Okay, now I would like to go over some advanced techniques that would elevate the website responsiveness even more. So let's say, for example, I have these two breakpoints. One is set to 1440 and the other is set to below. Whenever I go below 1440, it switches to the mobile view. That's not exactly what I want. Even though I designed it for 1440, I want it to stay like that until I get to the next breakpoint, 780 or something else. We can solve that by turning on the Pro features. If I click on the logo at the center of the top bar, I access some advanced features. We'll focus on the maximum and minimum widths of elements. I'll select the mobile version and set the minimum value to 0 and the maximum value to 780. I'll do something similar to the desktop view. I'm going to click on that, and the minimum width is going to be set to 781, and the maximum left blank. We can input whatever we want, but it won't matter. Now, when I preview, I'll have the desktop view all the way to 780, and then it's going to switch to the mobile version. Here's another quick example of how we can control the minimum and maximum width of a specific element. If I hit preview and go straight to mobile view, I can clearly see the width of both elements is larger than the screen size. We can quickly and easily solve that with the max width. Let's set a max width of 90% screen width for both elements. Now hit preview and go to the mobile view. As you can see, the elements fit inside the screen. But this isn't exactly what I wanted. Let's add more to improve it. First, I want the image to be aspect ratio locked. Furthermore, I want the text to be in relative sizing. But that's going to introduce another problem. Yes, everything is contained, but the text is too small. So we're going to fix that with the advanced minimum and maximum font sizes. Make sure you are in Pro mode. For text elements, two new inputs appear. One for the minimum size and one for the maximum size of the text. I'll input 20 for the minimum and 40 for the maximum. Let's preview again and go straight to mobile view. Now the text looks much better. Now, everything is as responsive as possible. We can see another example of that. If I go to the lines, I can follow the stories. Here, I have a maximum width of 90% of screen width for each of the images and for each text element next to it. Previewing it now, I see that no matter what I adjust, it fits, and the text remains a clear and readable size. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for today. Stay tuned for more tutorials, and if you have any questions, just like always, feel free to contact us via our support email, support@flowmo.design, or via our help widget. Thanks, and I will see you next time.